Good afternoon, everyone. It's Karen Skillings of Cards with Karen in OS, meaning Ocean Shores. And I'm coming to you this afternoon with another one of my stamping basics. And today's topic is stamping. In other words, using the stamps on ink to put an image on paper. So I am going to shift the camera down and I am going to just cover a couple of different things with our, because we have two different kinds of stamps. And so I'll show you a little bit about advantages or disadvantages of both. And so here we go, flipping it down. And we got a little bit of vibration. I'm sorry about that, folks. Okay, I have an ink pad. And the ink pads are easily opened if you just kind of pop the back of them. Some people just like to lift up the front. When you get it open, then you just slide it back into place. So that's the ink. Now I have two different kinds of ink stamps available. We have the cling stamps, and I actually did a video on how to assemble these because they are red rubber mounted. They have the foam cushion built into them. And so they need some assembly when you first get them. So I did a video on how to assemble them. So we're gonna go ahead and start with this one. So I'm gonna pull out one of the stamps. They are very sticky on the bottom side. And then I'm just gonna grab, because it's this shape, I'm just gonna grab the D block. That is the size that I most often use, and it even says the letter on the side. So because they're so sticky, you can just barely even have to push it onto the block and it's there. So I'm just gonna grab a piece of paper. This is scratch, obviously. The ink is very moist in the regular stamp pads. So you just tap, 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 and you can tell when you turn it over. I tapped a little hard because I actually caught some of that red rubber, which means that I have to be very careful with how I place it on the paper and don't push too hard and don't rock. Don't rock. You're just going to go straight down. I'm just kind of pushing straight. Notice I didn't show any of that ink that was on my stamp. Something to keep in mind when you're using, especially the cling mount stamps, if you ended up with any ink on the rubber, watch what happens if I was to rock my stamp. Some people push too hard or rock. Oh, and I didn't even get it. Amazing. When I tried to. Quite often you'll get that line under your phrase. Okay, that's the cling mount stamps. How do you clean them? Well, you want to clean them before you take them off of the block. So I just have a Shammy, and I use our clear or empty stamp storage cases. You can get a 4-pack of them, and you just clean it. The Shammy is just barely damp. I've wrung out the water, and it cleans it off really well. If you didn't wring out the water good enough, you could always have a old washcloth handy nearby. Now, important, when you're taking your stamps off the block, please just grab a corner. Grab a corner with your fingernail and peel them off slowly. You don't want to rip them off quickly, or you're going to take off the image, the sticky, clingy part. And then you just put them back in the case. And that's how you can keep track of whether you've got all your stamps back, like me at the end of a class or something. So that's a cling mount stamp, and those are the orange rubber ones. As opposed to the photopolymer stamps. Those are completely clear and see-through. They don't have any cushion built into them. So if I was to use the thanks so much phrase on this one, you're going to do the same thing. You're still pulling it off of the sheet. In this case, it's the sheet instead of the orange frame. And you can just set it on the block. It's going to stick real easily. This one, because you can see through it, it's very easy to place onto maybe a smaller target. I have some old paper pumpkin pieces. Actually, let's take one that's a little smaller. Can't get my nails to work today. There you go. I'll use one that's a little smaller. Again, still just tap, tap, tapping and not getting the thumb involved. And then just straight down, you can actually see where you're placing it. That's one of the major advantages of the photopolymers, because especially if you have a small target, which I thought I had, I think it's on the others. Yes. Sorry, I was going to kind of show one of the advantages of the photopolymer is aiming for small spots. So if you have just a little something, maybe this round circle is what you want to go for, and something you can tell, is it going to fit or not fit? It's very easy to tell that way. Whereas, let's try the with sympathy phrase from this one. It's pretty small, right? It's very small. Just stick on the block. When you stamp, this one actually, you can tell it's going to fit because even the frame of the rubber around the words works. Oh, but look what I just did. I caught the edge. So I had tapped a little too hard, being a little more gentle. I call that the oops flip. You say oops, flip the paper over, try it again. Not pressing quite so hard. And there you go. Even aiming at small targets with the cling stamps, it works. Now, one of the advantages of the cling stamps is if you have a marker pen, and you just want to do like with in one color and sympathy in another color, you can use our Stampin' Right markers and just stamp different colors on the stamp, or color, I guess, not stamp. You can color the different colors onto the one stamp. And before you put it on your paper, though, you would huff it or exhale on it to get it moist. Again, just lifting up the edge. It is important, especially with the clings, that you lift off the edge. Same with the photopolymer, I guess. So that's the big hints today. Peel off a corner of the stamp. The photopolymers, that's the see-through ones. They often, see, I have a very, very flat surface, so I'm not as concerned with having cushion, which I used to always do because I had a raggedy or uneven table before. So I would have my silicone mat as some extra cushion, sometimes a couple thicknesses, or the piercing mat because it's a solid spongy sort of surface, because these don't have any cushion built in like the cling mounts do. So I would give it some cushion. One of the advantages that I do want to point out is when you have the photopolymer, again, peeling that off, when you have long stamps, I'm going to get that out of my way. When you have long stamps, just let them relax before you pick them up. And I'm going to show you. This is the other size that I use a lot. And it is the, I can't even read it, H. Sorry, the H size. So these two are my most used size blocks, and I did a video on all the different sizes of blocks that are available. But I like to just let it rest and relax and become straight. And when it's a long, thin stamp like this, and you're using photopolymers, then my paper's all wrinkly, so it's not as easy. But you can aim quite easily on that long piece with the long stamp when you can see through it. It is much easier with the photopolymers to go for small, thin, contained areas. So again, it's cleaned off. Grab an edge and lift it off. And then it can just go back into its place on the plastic. So there you go. Two different kinds of stamps. Photopolymer, those are the see-through ones, and you'll see that at the top of the case. And we have the cling mount, cling stamps. There you go. So I hope that's helpful, getting an idea of the difference between the two stamp types and how to stamp. Tap, tap, tap. Don't press too hard. Don't rock your stamps when you're putting them onto the paper, because then you'll end up catching the outsides. So there's your tips, your Stampin' Basics from Karen Skillings of Cards with Karen, NOS, meaning I'm in Ocean Shores. Having a great time on a Sunday afternoon here. Happy stamping, and we'll get together for more tips in a bit. Bye.